Some of the biggest hits of 2015. We can't wait to see much of the same this year. Matt Elliott's here to talk some rugby league. Some big hits there, Matt. The Roosters, they might be about to cop a big one on the field. The suggestion is Mitchell Pearce could get 4 weeks. That's the Roosters side of things. The NRL, they're arguing for 12. What do you think's fair?
I think there's somewhere between the two would be a fair consequence. And we need to look at the action, and I know that now everyone's settled down after the incident and Mitchell's come back and stuck his hand up and taken full responsibility for his behaviour. You know, somewhere between the 4 and 6 weeks, I think, entirely fair.
It's clear that the Roosters, or perhaps it's Mitchell Pearce, decided that when he did return, there needed to be some form of PR message, and that is that he's right mentally, he's obviously right physically, and he's got everything together. Do you think it's worked, getting him out in front of all the media? Because he's been very present.
I guess the first thing you have to ask is whether that was part of the rehab process, where they said when you go back, you have to face up to your actions. And I really admire, I've got a personal connection to Mitch, but I really admire the way that he's handled himself and taken full responsibility. So I don't know whether it was the Roosters that encouraged him to do that or whether it was Mitch's decision, but whoever's decision it was, I think it was a wise one on a performance side of things as far as Mitch goes, but also on the PR side for sure.
Some suggestions out there that the NRL might not be too happy about that PR blitz. We'll get an idea later today about just where that punishment's going to sit. Let's talk about the on-field stuff, and it's not exactly the most exciting topic in the world, but the interchange rules have changed for this year. There's going to be some significant developments going from 10 down to 8. Who do you think's going to be the most affected, Matt?
It's really interesting when I've looked at this because people haven't really realised it as being a big thing, but you've lost 20% of your energy from the field. So from 10 to 8 is not a small amount. And things that now hookers, I believe, are going to have to be almost 80 minutes. And the ones that have got, I've noticed there's some teams that have picked hookers on the bench. Well, you're only going to get one change. Because last year we saw Granville go off, for example, and then come back on. I don't think you're going to see that again. So, and obviously teams with a lot of fitness and mobility in the middle of the park are also going to benefit from this. Teams like definitely the Broncos, who are a very mobile, very fit pack, they will benefit from these changes because there's going to be a lot of fatigue in the middle of the field. In the midway through halves, when just before changes are made, and at the back end of halves.
It won't happen overnight, but it'll be intriguing to see as well if the physical aspect changes, not so much in the hits, but if their actual physical demeanour changes, because we see that when sports do make change like that, suddenly people will thin up or bulk up, etc. Do you think there'll be any progress on that front?
This is a guess. We're going to do a lot of guessing this morning. Is that I don't think it's going to impact props so much. I think that in the past, teams have used 6 subs on their front rowers. And I don't think they can go too much lower than that. Some teams use 7. So they don't leave you one left. So I think if you can get that down to 5, that's amazing. But I think that it's the other positions, the back rowers are going to play longer minutes. So they might fine down a little bit. You get a different looking athlete. And I know a lot of teams are looking a lot slimmer after their pre-seasons now. But I think it's less the props and more those utility players that you see come off the bench.
As we take a look at Big Georgie Rose, he might thin up.
You certainly think you'd have to drop a few kilos. Matty, you talked about doing some guesswork. We want to get an idea about the teams that you think are going to be on the rise. Fans out there who support clubs who should be excited about this season.
I guess as soon as you ask that question, we look at recruitment, don't we? And if you look at Parramatta, if you look at the Warriors, and, I'm going to sneak this one in as well, but the Sea Eagles got some late recruitment in as well, but definitely those two teams are on the rise. And the other team I want to talk about, everyone seems to miss because they're so used to doing them well, is the Melbourne Storm. I know they made the top 4 last year, but this is the first off-season that those 3 crucial guys, in Smith, Slater and Cronk, have had a complete rest. I believe that it'll have a massive impact.
Yeah, you touched on the fact that Billy Slater is going to be so crucial there and the recruitment of the guys in the Warriors and the Eels. What about the teams that maybe aren't so crash-hot or who've been pumped up over the pre-season, but you see them as likely as sliding? This is where you make your enemies, Matt Elliott.
I know.
Let's make some enemies for you.
Well, I'm going to preface everything by this is all guessing. I've got the tarot cards out last night and this is what I've come up with. I think the easy one's the Roosters because they've been on top of the ladder for the last 3 years. So if they go down to 3 or 4, I think they'll be outside the top 4, but I still think they can win the comp. But I think that obviously they're not going to have Mitch Pearce for at least 6 weeks would be my guess. So they're bedding down a new halves combination. You know, they've had some fairly handy... Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I don't know if you noticed, is a fairly handy player. So Blake Ferguson will take some time to adapt to fullback as well. So I think that they will slip down a little bit, but I do believe that they can win the competition. I also, for the same reasons, Manly. You know, everyone, I like Manly's recruitment, but I believe that they may slip down. They're already down there, but I don't think they're going to rise as much as the other teams. And I've concluded into that Cronulla. And I know there's another team that I'm supposed to remember, but I think the Sharks, this is the Sharks' year. If they don't get it right this year, I think the age of some of their key players puts them at great risk. I'm looking up there at the screen and I can't remember the other teams.
Looking at your predictions there, you certainly don't think they're going to get it right there. 9 to 12, you've got Canberra, Cronulla, Penrith, St George Illawarra, and 13 to 16, Manly in the cellar. So maybe a little bit of time to wait there, according to Matt Elliott. Benny?
Well, I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that Paul Kent can say that the Sharkies are going to win, and you're telling me they're not going to make the 8. If I'm looking to make an investment, who do I trust?
Probably neither of us would be the best way to go. I mean, what you've got to understand is that I believe there's 2 teams that won't make the 8, and that's the Titans and the Tigers. And I think there's 5 teams that I definitely believe will make the 8. The next 3 spots available, there's 9 teams, and things like confidence, momentum, and the variables like injury and guys getting selected in rep teams will have a huge part to play in this competition.
Well, we're always asking who's going to win this. We want to know who's going to finish bottom this season, because
let's get negative.
He's already sat on the fence, so we want to be really negative right here. We want you guys to be negative. You can cast your vote on Twitter using hashtag FSN, plus the team's name, who you think will finish last. So let us know. Who do you think's going to win the vote from the people?
Dead last? Yeah. Titans or Tigers will be there or thereabouts.
Tigers. I think it'll be Tigers. Who do you think?
We're all in agreement about that. Is that both those teams have suffered some great adversity through the off-season and last season, and I think I'm going to go the Tigers. Sorry, guys.
There you go.
Matty Elliott, thanks for your time. We look forward to talking to you through the season, mate.
Can't wait.